all our listeners and audiences alike, a very warm namaste and welcome to this special interview show, which comes with an object to explore one of the most critical aspects of public service broadcasting, that is sustainability and funding. Now, you all know that Nepal is all set. In fact, it has already set off to establishing its very maiden public service broadcaster with the merger of Nepal Television and Radio Nepal. And at this very juncture, we find ourselves at a very pivotal moment, because there are traditional challenges already existing in the broader media landscape, complemented again by the emerging ones that include the digital disruption, and then there are technological issues and audience fragmentation, as well as multiple others, which certainly needs to be addressed as Nepal heads forth to chart out its own course in the domain of public service broadcasting. Now, what needs to be understood at all tiers of stakeholder is that the task of creating a sustainable and adaptable funding model is not just about ensuring financial stability, but it is about creating a very strong foundation for an institution which will inform, educate and unify the nation for generations to come. So this is where we stand, and challenges certainly are many, so are opportunities. And to help us navigate this very complex terrain of sustainability and funding model that is so much in practice and evolving all across the globe, we are privileged to have with us Mr. Toshiyuki Sato, who is a stalwart and a trailblazer in this particular domain. Mr. Sato is a former Secretary General of the Public Service Broadcasting International of NHK, and also the former Director General of NHK. A global authority of public service broadcasting, Mr. Sato has certainly played a very pivotal role in shaping PBSs to meet the demands of the changing times while staying true to their public mandate. It's an absolute honor to welcome Mr. Sato to this program. Mr. Sato, welcome to this special edition of interview here on PSBN.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your overstated compliments for a mean journalist. Thank you very much. I'll do my best today.
Right. So let us begin, Mr. Sato, by asking you that why is it so central to building a resilient and impactful public service broadcasting?
Well, first of all, I'd like to emphasize that democracy needs public broadcaster, and public broadcaster can work under a proper democracy. So many people say democracy is dependent on broadcasting, public broadcasting. Public broadcasting is dependent on democracy. So we are interdependent. And without democracy, the public broadcaster doesn't work. And without public broadcasting, the democracy cannot work properly. So that's the importance of having a good public broadcaster in your society for the cause of your nation, for the better future and good democracy, not like the big state over the Pacific under some name of the card game.
Certainly, Mr. Sato. PSB, in fact, are always or often described as the very cornerstones of democratic societies. Nepal is in the infancy of being a federal democratic republic at the moment. So there is so much in a transitional stage as it heads forward to institutionalizing all these political and societal changes or achievements that we have had. Now, you having worked with NHK, which is again a trailblazer and a pioneer in this domain, and the Secretary General of the PSB International, you have seen all these transformations for a long span of time firsthand, right? So how would you define the role of PSB in today's world?
Well, first, the situation that surrounds the public broadcasting is changing. And we often use the word quick change of our environment. Quick change made by the internet is very, very, let's say, imminent, and we have to live under the big change of our surroundings. So that's why the public broadcasters have to change a little bit to live up with the new changes. And first, I'd like to show a slide about the definition of public broadcasting. I followed some of your news programs, and you say the same thing. But please endure me speaking the same thing, because it's a kind of global agenda, and we feel the same way as you do. First, there are two elements of the public broadcasting. Public, we say, is not commercial oriented. We don't work to make profits. That's one thing. And the other factor is not governmental or state-run. So you can define the public by two no's. One no is not for commercial advertisement, not for profit. That's one no. And the other no is the invasion of state policy, government, and we don't want to be state-run broadcaster. So they are two no's that are important for the public broadcasting. And it must adhere to the editorial independence. That's the most important reason for us to stay in a democratic system. We have to have an editorial independence. The objectives of characteristics of public broadcasting is serving for the public. And especially, we use the word serving for the civic society these days, especially in Europe. They say that public broadcasters are for the civic society. So each citizen, individual and independent citizen, that's the targets we work for. And that means, in a sense, easy word, that we are working for democracy. And so, to do so, we can't be partisan. Non-partisan is very important. We don't say that we are for one party, A, and we are against party B, but we cannot say that. We can tell the differences of two parties or three parties. That's possible, but we can't be partisan. Non-partisan is important. And we have to show the multi-dimensional views, not single view, but we provide different views to the audience. And impartial and fair coverage. When we make coverage, news coverage, and when we produce programs, we have impartial and fair coverage. And diversity and inclusion is very important for public broadcasting. And I think that's a big theme in Nepal, I understand. And we have to respect small ethnic groups and cultural minorities. And also we have to take care about the gender equality. So they are the important elements of public broadcasting.
Right, you put it quite right, Mr. Sato, because one of the core objectives of this transformation is, of course, inclusivity, and especially reflecting the essence of democracy by becoming or transforming it to be a broadcaster for all. Not that Radio Nepal and Nepal Television have not been carrying this essence. It's been a long legacy which they have very much tried to incorporate in their day-to-day execution. But as we hit this transition, and as you've rightly said, Nepal is such a diverse country with varying linguistic cultures, and then even geographical dynamics are quite varying. So in this context, how do you further define or elaborate the relevance of PSB, particularly in fostering inclusivity and cultural representation?
Well, there are no two same public broadcasters in the world. Maybe there are dozens of public broadcasters, and I'd like to tell the important essence of public broadcasters before I understand the question. The BBC in the UK and NHK are quite the same. We are run by license fee and no advertisement. And the size of organization are quite the same. And we celebrate a centennial this March will be 100 years old. And BBC became 100 years old 2 years ago. So we have a long history, similar. But there are many differences. They have a charter that runs for 10 years, and NHK's budget is clarified every year. So they're different. There are some differences. So in this way, that the public broadcasts, which looks the same, but have many differences. So you are going into the voyage of new road, new sea coast of public broadcaster, and you have your own charter, and you decide which way you go. But we'd like you to follow us in the sense that, as I mentioned in the first chart, that we work for the public, and we don't seek editorial the profit, and we don't want any intervention from the government. And yes,
we will come to that. We will come to that, Mr. Sato, because the crux or the main object of today's interview is certainly about seeking to explore the funding and sustainability models, because that is directly going to impact the two elements that you have just now and since the very beginning emphasizing on. Let's come to the transition period, because this is the time when things take shape. And you've already mentioned about this, because this is a time when we are transiting from a state broadcaster to an independent public service broadcaster. And it is in itself a very monumental task. And that shift certainly is not going to be easy. And what it needs is a complete structural reform, a shift in organizational culture, and clear alignment with the public service values. And I think these certainly are going to determine the degree of sustainability for this entity. Now, the challenges for us in this pretext, the challenges for PSBN are already on here. It's already there. As Nepal embarks on this journey, what key challenges do you foresee during this transition period? And how can these be effectively managed, Mr. Sato?
Well, it's a hard question. To maintain the quality of public broadcasting is a matter that we face day to day. And it's a kind of international challenge that in small countries, the merge of TV and radio to make new public broadcast system is a phenomenon. In New Zealand, they do the same, and there are some countries, and there are many ideas of merging the two important public broadcasting service. And I think it's better to have one public broadcaster under one umbrella, no two different umbrellas. And I think it's a good course because you can keep the size of production and journalist forces and send a bigger news crew or send or produce a better quality programs by keeping the program directors. So it's a good decision unless you cut too many people by when you merge the two. So that is one thing you have to be very careful.
Right. Do you recall any pitfalls experienced by any countries during transitions like this? Something which Nepal can draw from?
Well, it's hard because there are many cases, and it's mainly due to the conflicts between the public broadcaster, which aims to be free, and some forces to control the public broadcasting system for the benefit of their group. So especially the government is very important, and they are strong. So public broadcaster has to be taken care of and has to have support, strong support from the viewers and listeners.
Mm-hmm. This, Mr. Sato, is certainly, or largely determined by one of the central sustainability element, that is finance, right? Because that stands at the very, very center of what becomes of any model, including a PSB. Now, financial sustainability, as I said, it is certainly the backbone of a successful PSB. However, let's come to the context of countries like Nepal, because it's a developing economy, and certainly there is a crunch of resource. So the opportunities or the scope might be very, very limited for us to, have the cake and eat it too, right? So this might be the reality situation. So how can Nepal, adopt sustainability funding models that ensures long-term viability without compromising its public mandate?
Well, that's a general question, and not only to Nepal, and it is very important. I had prepared slide 2 that's about the important elements for editorial independence. And the one element, strongest element, is stable finance. If the finance is stable, it is not difficult to have your editorial independence. And for the stable finance, that's on table 2, a license fee is most preferable. The UK, Japan, and South Korea follow the license fee. Especially the UK and Japan, there's no advertisement allowed on the programs or on our channels. South Korea, they allow certain portion with advertisement, but they are the major countries still dependent on license fee. And the special tax, France, they gather license fee with the tax, so they call it special tax. And Germany introduced the system 20 years ago, and Germany, Switzerland, Finland, these European countries, they have to catch up with the internet era. People don't use TV sets to get information. They use the internet as well. So regardless you have a TV set at home or not, you have to pay the special tax. That's a new way of gathering money for stable finance. And Thailand, this is very unique. And I don't know if you are familiar with, but in Thailand, the money comes from the government, but not from the Ministry of Communication or Broadcasting, but it comes from the money of alcohol consumption tax. So if you drink Singha beer, whiskey, in Thailand, you pay a high alcohol consumption tax, and certain percentage of the money comes from the fund. And this way, they can avoid the influence of the government because the money comes automatically, not very big amount of money, but it comes and without any interruption from the government. So that's a new idea, and that's very interesting. And the government subsidies, Canada, Australia, and many countries receive money from the government, and they all have difficulties with the governments. If the government is very strict, they push you hard. They push the public broadcasters very hard, and they want to control. And that happens quite often. But if the government is liberal, they understand the independence of broadcasting, and they are stable. And also, the second important thing is balanced board. The board has to reflect different opinion groups. So diversity of society should be included in choosing and running the boards. That's very important. And independent governance. The governance should be independent, shouldn't be influenced by the others. The transparency in management is very important, and that's a part of democracy. And the second and the third pillar are very, relevant to your new public broadcasting system. And I'd like to emphasize that transparency is very important to make people understand what's going on. If it's all in the black hole, a black box, they cannot see. So keep it open as much as possible, transparent, so that people can watch what's going on. And this way you can eliminate some of.
Right. You've shared some really significant and impressive models that have been in practice. Also talking about NHK, which has often been highlighted as one of the most successful examples of a well-funded PSB. Could you share the insights into NHK's funding model and also discuss how elements of it could be adapted to Nepal, especially in view of the elements that you just highlighted?
Well, NHK is quite happy because all the money comes from license fee, I can say. And some amount of money comes from the business we run as subsidiary companies, and they send back their profits for the sake of NHK. And these two elements cover almost all the expenditure of NHK. And it's the same with BBC. And they are, I think, a bit better off. But because of the high inflation in the UK, they are having a hard time. So any public broadcaster in the world are having or experiencing a hard time to run financial issues. But NHK believes that depending on the self-generated incomes and license fee are the best to keep our independence. But this can't be pursued easily in many countries. With the case of Nepal, I think it's a bit too far to seek the same way. So it can be a case that you can learn or you can pursue. So you have to find a better way.
Right. And from what you shared and from what we learn globally, PSBs largely rely on a mix of government funding, advertising revenue, and then public contributions as well to sustain their operations. And also, in the present pretext, we also get to understand that there are considerations being made to change the financing mechanisms as well. The shift in itself is being again put into the radar of questions, right? So, said that striking the right balance is so critical to ensuring the independence and accountability, which again is one of the core essence of PSB. Now, what in your view, Mr. Sato, is the ideal balance between government funding and revenue from other sources like advertising, subscriptions and partnerships? Because for Nepal, shifting away from these or finding these, its course ahead is very challenging at the moment.
It's very difficult. I've never thought of making a kind of what percent of income come from certain source and other certain percent comes from the other source. But and the important thing is to find the best source that wouldn't give you any direction or any pressure, and you keep certain amount of money which are not giving you pressure. So that's the only way I can give you. There's no analogy. There's no certain percentage of combination.
Mm-hmm. And how can Mr. Sato, Nepal's PSB, avoid over-reliance on government funding while maintaining its public service mandate and financial sustainability?
Well, I don't think there's other way but government subsidies. So that's why you'll be dependent on getting money from the government. And having resources from the government is not bad unless they give you some instructions. So keep your governance open and transparent. Then it's hard for those who demand you something, you try to keep them quiet, nice and quiet.
Mm-hmm. Let me run through a few quick questions to you regarding the funding challenges that the present media landscape has. So how in the present pretext do you think, Mr. Sato, that PSB balances its public interest mission with financial viability in the digital first world?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think public broadcasters are advantage in the internet business or internet works, because we don't have to think about the profit making. The new internet business, you require a lot of money. You have to prepare a lot of money and for running as well. But public broadcasting system, you can spend your money because it's for the sake of the public. So the reasoning is easy. So that way you can consume a lot of money or proper money for a new business. And public broadcasters have advantages over the state-run media or over profit-orienting media.
Should PSPs pivot towards audience-driven funding to reduce dependence on government or license fees, Mr. Sato?
Because you have to make money anyway, and we say to make both ends meet, income one end and outgo the other end. So when spend certain amount of money, you have to expect the money to fulfill the amount you spend. And for the sake of the new business, the internet business, I think you can induce enough amount of money from the public.
Right. You have already laid emphasis on two very key elements, accountability and transparency. Could you share what frameworks can ensure these two, accountability and transparency, in PSB funding while maintaining editorial independence?
Well, to pursue the editorial independence, you have to be stable. If your organization is not stable, many powers, many elements will try to invoke and try to give influence. So we have to keep our organization stable and has to be clean, and also make the system, as I mentioned many times, transparent, so that people can see that our organization is run properly and they want to do away with some intrusion, you know. So transparency is very important.
Right. This is a time when Nepal's PSB is certainly considering all options possible to devise a revenue model of its own, revenue generation model of one. Now, one key element or contributor to the Nepal's entire development has been its development partners. So at this point, Mr. Sato, how do you think can Nepal leverage international cooperation to develop innovative funding solutions for PSB?
Well, I wish good luck of your calculation on your income, you know, because we expect certain elements to provide certain amount of money, and you add up, and you may think that enough. But if one party says no, then it's difficult to run your business. The whole structure, whole picture will change. So you have to be very careful. And I think the government should take care if your system doesn't go well. But they should be a good father and good mother, and they shouldn't give you any instruction. And that's what I hope. I hope your government is generous enough to see PSB and go well.
Now, Mr. Sato, you know, building a strong relationship with the audience is so essential for PSB. And the challenges and opportunities are certainly magnified in this digital era. I hope you agree with me, right? Young and even Nepal's PSB policy outline certainly emphasizes audience engagement and participation. However, the models and the structures are yet to be, elaborated or defined further. Now, younger audience at this present time are certainly gravitating, you know, towards online platforms, creating, again, as I said, both challenges and opportunities for us. So what strategies have you seen in your work sphere, even in the global front, to engage these diverse audiences, especially the younger mass, the newer audiences for institutions like us, and build trust in the PSB?
Well, the program of Z generation is common everywhere, every country, and especially for the public broadcasters, because our themes that we take are sometimes too hard and not very attractive for younger generation. So we allocate certain young producers, to get along with the new generation. And that's observed everywhere, every country where they have public broadcasters. And you have the point. So try to understand the behavior and likes and dislikes of younger generation, and give some advice. And also the media, they don't watch television and they don't listen to radio, and they use the internet or SNS. So you have to change the field to these new media for taking the younger generation.
So having said that, how important do you think the involvement of audience is, be it through feedback, through content co-creation or funding, in ensuring the success of a PSB? And how can Nepal integrate this into its PSB model?
Well, I think, we work to have some reaction from the people who watched our programs, who watched our news. And if people are not concerned, they wouldn't watch our programs. So you have to check the ratings if you have a system of getting the ratings. So how many percent of the population watched certain programs? And it depends on, well, it shows on different channels. And the get-backs is very important. And also, you will make a kind of audience committee or something to have get-backs from the royal audience. And you listen to them carefully, and you just shape a new, strategy out of these comments. That's very important. That's a day-to-day thing that you should follow.
Since we're talking sustainability, Mr. Sato, as we come towards ending or wrapping up this conversation with you today, creating a robust and resilient PSB always requires a right structural and policy framework from the very, very outset, right? So this is where PSBN is right now. And the first few years, we certainly know, especially this year, which is being given as or set as the year of transition, is very, very crucial for us to setting the tone for our success. So what structural and policy reforms would you recommend for Nepal's PSB in these very, very initial years to ensure a long-term success?
Yeah, the first, punch or first action is very important. If you go slowly, I think that the total pace for the coming 5-10 years slow. So you give a kind of shock to your audience and show what you want and how you grow in the future by your programs, by your news, by giving some new challenge.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sato. Thank you for your incredible and very, very invaluable insights today. We certainly will get back to you at a relevant and needful time, and we believe this for this cooperation and this gesture continues in the days ahead. Thank you for sparing your very valuable time.
Thank you very much, and I wish you a big success.
Thank you so much. So as we've heard, dear listeners and our viewers across the platforms of Radio Nepal and Nepal Television, known as PSBN Radio Nepal and PSBN Nepal Television now, the journey towards establishing a sustainable PSB in Nepal requires not only a thoughtful funding model, but also a very, very clear vision of independence, inclusivity, audience engagement, transparency, and accountability. That's what our guest just highlighted on. For Nepal, the path forward lies in succeeding in balancing the financial sustainability with the public service mandate. And by leveraging a mix of innovative funding models, fostering strong audience trust, and prioritizing diverse, high-quality content, Nepal certainly can create a PSB that resonates with the people it serves. So that was what we could reap out of this special edition of Interview as Nepal embarks on its journey of transiting into a public service broadcaster. Thank you for being with us. For now, from the entire team, goodbye and namaste.